Welcome, sleepy soul. Tonight, I'm your storyteller, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. In the comments, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that, too. I never imagined the happiest trip of my life would turn into something that still haunts me in the dead of night. When people ask about the scariest moment of my career, they expect a story about a standoff or a house fire gone wrong. They think being a cop and a volunteer firefighter means I've seen it all, and I have blood, fire, chaos. But nothing compares to what happened on my honeymoon. It started like a dream. After 2 years of planning, countless overtime shifts, and an engagement that felt too short, Melissa and I finally got married in late June. The wedding was everything we wanted. Small, intimate, just family and a few close friends. By the end of that night, I couldn't stop looking at her. She was perfect in that dress. Perfect in the way she laughed with my mom. Perfect in how she stole fries off my plate during the reception like she always did. Our honeymoon was supposed to be a reset button after years of stress, debt, and late night shifts. Melissa had chosen the destination, a quiet coastal town in northern Brazil, far from the crowded tourist spots. It was marketed as where romance meets paradise. The photos online sold us instantly: white beaches, blue water, a boutique hotel with private balconies overlooking the ocean. The name was Villa Marol. I can still remember the smell when we arrived. Salt air mixed with flowers, something sweet and unfamiliar. The lobby was rustic but elegant with wooden beams and warm lighting. Melissa squeezed my hand as we checked in, practically bouncing on her toes. Daniel Brooks, the woman at the desk asked, her Portuguese laced with an accent that made even my name sound exotic. Yes, I said, and this is my wife, Melissa. The word wife still felt new in my mouth, and it made me grin like an idiot. Congratulations, the clerk said warmly. Welcome to Villa Marol. You have the honeymoon suite. Melissa's cheeks flushed pink, and she nudged me playfully. Hear that, Mr. Brooks? Fancy. We laughed, and everything felt perfect. If someone had told me then that in less than 48 hours I'd be clutching Melissa in a dark room, unable to move while a stranger stood at the foot of our bed, I would have thought they were insane. The first day was everything we wanted. We hit the beach, drank fruity cocktails that tasted like sunshine, and let the waves pull the stress out of us. Melissa wore this simple white sundress that made every guy on the beach stare. But I didn't care. I was proud. She was mine and I was hers. That night, we decided to check out the hotel bar after dinner. It wasn't big, just a polished wooden counter with a row of stools and a few small tables. There were only a handful of guests, most of them older couples. Behind the bar was a man who looked out of place. Not because he was unattractive. If anything, he had that rugged, weathered look some women like. Maybe mid-30s, strong jawline, dark hair tied back loosely. But something about him felt sharp, like a blade hidden in a drawer of spoons. His name tag read Raphael, Boa Noite. He said as we sat down, "What can I get for you?" Melissa smiled politely. "What do you recommend?" His eyes lingered on her longer than necessary. "For you," he said in perfect English, "a caipirinha, sweet, refreshing." "Sounds great," she said. "And for you?" he asked, finally glancing at me. "Whiskey, neat," I replied. He nodded and turned away. I tried to shake off the weird vibe, but something about the way he looked at her made my jaw tighten. Melissa didn't notice. She was scrolling through photos on her phone, humming softly. When Raphael came back, he set Melissa's drink down first. His fingers brushed hers. Not a normal accidental touch, but slow, deliberate. Melissa didn't react beyond a polite smile, but I noticed. "Thanks," I said curtly as he handed me mine. "Enjoy," Raphael murmured, his eyes still on her. We sipped our drinks and chatted about the day, but my mind wasn't in it. I kept catching Raphael watching her, not casually, but staring like he was memorizing her. Every time Melissa laughed at something I said, his jaw tightened just slightly. I leaned closer to her. "You notice the bartender?" She frowned. "What about him?" "He's watching you." Melissa glanced over, then back at me with a shrug. "Maybe he's bored. There's hardly anyone here." "Yeah, maybe," I said, though I didn't believe it. When she finished her drink, Melissa waved him over for another. As he prepared it, I swear I heard him breathing harder, ragged almost. His hands twitched as he muddled the lime. When he set the glass down, I decided to make it clear. "Hey," I said flatly, "does my wife have something on her face?" Slowly, Raphael's eyes moved from her to me. For a few seconds, he just stared. No blink, no smile. Then he turned without a word and walked away. Melissa touched my arm. "Daniel, don't, please. I don't like the way he's looking at you." "Then let's go," she said softly. We headed back to our room. My gut churned the whole way. I locked the door, checked it twice, and tried to shake it off. We were both tipsy, and eventually exhaustion won. Melissa curled against me, her breath warm on my neck. I drifted off to the sound of waves crashing against the shore outside our balcony. I woke to darkness. The moonlight from the balcony cast a faint silver glow across the room. I rolled onto my back and glanced at the clock on the nightstand, and 4:03 a.m. Normally, after a few drinks, I sleep like a rock. So why was I awake? Then I saw him, a silhouette at the foot of our bed, motionless. It didn't seem real at first. My brain fought it, tried to explain it away. A shadow, a trick of the light. But then the shape shifted slightly, and the pale moonlight caught the edge of a face. Raphael, my blood turned to ice. He was inside our room. I tried to move, to reach for anything. A lamp, my phone, but my body wouldn't respond. It was like every muscle had locked up. Panic clawed at my chest. He wasn't looking at Melissa this time. He was looking at me. His right hand twitched at his side. In his left, he held something I couldn't see clearly, metal glinting faintly in the dark. I wanted to scream to wake her, but before I could, I heard Melissa stir. She opened her eyes, saw him, and froze. Tears welled instantly. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I forced my throat to work. What do you want?" I rasped. Raphael didn't answer, his head tilted slightly, eyes glinting in the dark. Then, slowly, he stepped forward. My pulse hammered so hard I thought my skull would split. When he reached my side of the bed, he set something on the nightstand, and with a soft clink, "A glass. You forgot your drink," he whispered. His voice was low, too calm. Then he turned and walked out. For a moment I couldn't move. Then adrenaline crashed through me. I leapt up, slammed the door shut, and flipped on every light. The glass sat on the nightstand, beads of condensation sliding down its sides. Melissa was shaking uncontrollably. I grabbed her and held her while she sobbed. Security searched the hotel. Raphael was gone. His uniform, his belongings, everything left behind. It was like he vanished into the night. The manager apologized profusely, swore they were planning to fire him for strange behavior, but no one ever found him. To this day, I don't know what he wanted, why he left that glass, why he didn't hurt us when he had the chance. But sometimes when I wake up at night, I swear I feel eyes on me, and I wonder if someday Raphael will finish what he started. I never thought my honeymoon would turn into a nightmare that people would whisper about for years. When I imagined this chapter of my life, I pictured soft waves rolling onto white sand, champagne flutes clinking under a golden sunset, and long, slow mornings wrapped in each other's arms. Every love story tells you that your wedding day is the happiest day of your life. They never tell you what happens if you choose the wrong person to marry. My name is Maya, and a little over 2 months ago I married Aaron Bennett, the man I believed was my soulmate. Aaron and I met in one of those ways that feel almost cinematic. It was late spring, and I had ducked into a small coffee shop after a brutal work meeting. I was tired, irritated, and juggling my laptop bag and a cup of coffee when the lid slipped. I remember the splash, the sting of heat, and then his voice. "Whoa, careful there." He caught my arm, steadying me before the cup completely tipped. I looked up, and he smiled with the kind of warmth that melts defenses. His green eyes had this intensity to them, like he was memorizing my face. We talked for 2 hours that day. It felt easy, natural, like we'd known each other for years. Within a week, we were inseparable. He said things like, "You're everything I didn't know I was looking for." And for the first time in years, I believed someone truly saw me. So when he proposed just 3 months later, under a sky painted orange and pink, I said yes without hesitation. Everyone said it was too fast, but love makes you deaf to reason. Our wedding was small, just close friends and family. When I walked down that aisle, my heart almost burst. Aaron looked perfect in his charcoal suit, and when he said "I do," I thought the world stood still, but looking back now, there were signs. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. His hands were clammy. When the pastor said, "You may kiss the bride," he brushed his lips against mine quickly, almost like he was embarrassed. I laughed it off, telling myself he hated public displays of affection. The real unease began when he changed our honeymoon plans. We had been planning for Hawaii. I even bought swimsuits and sundresses for it. But the night of the wedding, Aaron leaned close and whispered, "Baby, slight change of plans. We're not going to Hawaii anymore." "What? Why?" I asked, half laughing, thinking he was joking. Something came up. He said, his voice tight, "But trust me, this will be better, once in a lifetime stuff." I pressed for answers, but he just kissed my forehead and said, "You'll love it. I promise." The next morning, instead of boarding a plane to Honolulu, we were sitting at JFK Airport holding tickets to Naples, Italy. "Italy," I blurted. "Aaron, how, when, why didn't you tell me?" He smiled that same quick, tight smile. "Wanted it to be a surprise. You like surprises, right?" Something in his tone didn't feel playful, but Italy sounded romantic, and I wanted to believe in us. So, I pushed the unease down and boarded that plane. The flight was long. I slept most of the way, waking only when Aaron nudged me gently as the wheels hit the runway. Outside, Naples shimmered in the afternoon sun, its streets alive with scooters and voices. I reached for Aaron's hand as we walked toward baggage claim, but he pulled away. "You're making this harder for me," he muttered under his breath. I stopped, making what harder? He didn't answer. He just kept walking. By the time we reached the exit, a black Mercedes limousine was waiting. 2 men in suits stood by it, sunglasses masking their eyes. "Wow," I said, trying to inject some excitement. "You really went all out, huh?" Aaron didn't reply. One of the men opened the door. "Signor Bennett," he said in a thick Italian accent. "Prego." The air in that car was heavy, suffocating. The men spoke rapidly in Italian. I caught a few words, "ragazza," which I remembered meant girl. I told myself it was nothing. Aaron sat rigid beside me, staring out the window. "Where are we going?" I asked softly. "You'll see," he murmured. His voice was flat. We drove for almost an hour, leaving the chaos of the city behind. The roads wound through hills lined with cypress trees. Finally, we pulled up to a sprawling villa. It looked like something out of a dream. Stone walls, cascading flowers, a fountain sparkling in the courtyard. "Oh my God," I whispered. "Aaron, this is beautiful." He forced a smile. "Yeah, beautiful." The men ushered us inside. The air smelled of lemon and polished wood. For a brief second, I let myself believe maybe I'd been paranoid. Maybe this was just some elaborate romantic gesture. Then a voice boomed from the staircase. "Ah, finalmente." A short, stocky man descended, flanked by 2 more men. He wore an immaculate white suit, a gold chain gleaming against his chest. His smile was warm, but his eyes were cold. "Welcome to my home," he said, his accent thick but his English smooth. "Mr. Bennett, e la bellissima." His gaze slid to me. Aaron's hand twitched at his side. "This is her," he said. "Her." My stomach turned. The man approached slowly, like a cat circling prey. He took my hand and kissed it lightly. "Such beauty. You will do nicely." "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, pulling my hand back. The man chuckled. "Ah, you did not tell her. Tisk, tisk, Aaron. Tell me what." My voice shook. Aaron swallowed hard. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Maya, I had to. They were going to kill me. This was the only way." "What are you talking about?" The short man clapped his hands, amused. "Your husband came to me. He wanted wealth, power. Join my famiglia. I said, bring me something precious. Bring me the woman you love. And he did." The room tilted. I couldn't breathe. "Aaron, tell me he's lying." Aaron finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes wasn't love. It was resignation. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The man's smile widened. "Troppo debole," he said in Italian. Then, without warning, he pulled a gun from his jacket and bang. Aaron crumpled, blood pooling beneath his head. I screamed so loud my throat tore. The man stepped over Aaron's body like it was nothing. He wiped the gun on a handkerchief, then turned to me with a serene smile. "Do not cry, Bella. He betrayed you. A man like that does not deserve your tears." He reached out and lifted my chin. "You are mine now." I stumbled back, shaking my head. "No, no, you can't." He snapped his fingers. The guards closed in, their faces like stone. The man's voice was soft, almost tender. "Welcome to your new life, Maya." And as they dragged me down a long, dim hallway, past doors that hid God knows what, I realized something chilling. The honeymoon wasn't the beginning of my happily ever after. It was the end. I always thought our honeymoon would be the happiest trip of our lives. It was supposed to be a perfect escape, a week away from work, bills, and the chaos of planning a wedding. After 6 months of stressful preparations, arguments about table placements, and last-minute guest list changes, we finally made it. Just Cale and me, married for exactly 9 days, ready to fly out of Chicago to spend our first real adventure together in Kansas City. It wasn't Paris, it wasn't Hawaii, but it was ours. A quiet city, good food, jazz, art museums. We didn't want flashy, we wanted peaceful. At least that's what we thought. "Cale, hurry up, we're going to miss the flight," I hissed, weaving through the crowd as the boarding call blared overhead. Final boarding call for passengers Cale and Aria Sloan. Booked on flight 481 to Kansas City. Please proceed to gate 7 immediately. Cale stumbled behind me, pulling the carry on with one hand and holding my oversized tote bag in the other. "I'm trying, okay? These shoes are not made for sprinting," he panted. "Then why wear them? You said you like how I look in them." I stopped dead for half a second and glared. "I like you alive more than stylish." He smirked through his exhaustion. "So you admit I look good?" "Cale, I swear." We finally reached gate 7, flushed and out of breath. The attendant scanned our passes with a polite but tight smile, clearly annoyed we were the last aboard. "Seats are together?" Cale asked nervously as we stepped into the narrow aisle. "Yes," I said, checking our tickets. "Row 22, middle and window." "Great." That meant someone was in the aisle seat. As soon as we sat down, I could feel eyes on me. That prickling sensation on the back of your neck, the kind that makes your stomach tighten. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just nerves from the rush. Then I heard him. "Lucky guy," a low male voice said from behind us. Almost a whisper, but just loud enough for Cale to hear. "How a dude like you land a wife like that?" Cale froze. His grip on the armrest tightened. I turned my head slightly. The man behind us had a crooked smile, stubble covering his jaw, and unsettlingly sharp blue eyes. He looked amused. "Excuse me," Cale said flatly. "You heard me." The stranger said, grinning wider. "Beautiful girl like her. And you." He gave Cale a slow one. "Sober. Guess confidence really does work." I shot Kale a warning look. Ignore him, but Kale's temper was simmering. Do you mind not talking to my wife like that? The guy chuckled, leaning forward slightly, touchy. I was just giving a compliment. Kale's jaw clenched. Stay in your seat. Sure, sure, the man said, sitting back, but his smirk didn't fade. I tried to laugh it off, resting my head against the window. Let it go, Kale, please, it's not worth it. He nodded, but his leg bounced nervously. An hour into the flight, the stranger started again. Hey, sweetheart. He whispered, his voice snaking between the headrests. What's your name? I ignored him. Kale turned halfway in his seat. You talk to her again and I swear, what? The man's grin widened. You'll fight me right here in front of all these people. That'd be fun. I pressed my hand on Kale's knee. Don't, please. The flight attendant passed by. Kale quickly flagged her down. This man is harassing my wife. Can we switch seats? She looked apologetic but helpless. I'm so sorry, sir. The flight is full. I'll have a word with him, though. She leaned toward the stranger. Sir, please respect the other passenger's privacy. Of course, he said with mock politeness. Just making conversation. But the moment she walked away, he whispered again, so low I barely heard. I'm going to remember that face. Something in my chest tightened. We hit turbulence for the last 30 minutes. I closed my eyes, gripping Kale's hand as the plane jolted. When we finally landed, relief washed over me. Thank God. I muttered as we stood to grab our bags. The man hadn't said a word since the turbulence started. I didn't even glance back. We just wanted out. As we walked through the terminal, Kale muttered, Do you see him? Not good. Let's just grab our luggage and go. But Kansas City's small airport made it easy for people to linger. I saw him near baggage claim, just standing, watching us. Kale, I whispered, clutching his arm. He's here. Stay close, he said. We grabbed our suitcase and headed for the exit as fast as we could. By the time we reached the taxi stand, he was gone, or so we thought. Our hotel was gorgeous. Warm lighting, soft jazz in the lobby, and a view of downtown from our 12th floor room. For a while, everything felt normal again. We showered, ordered room service, and laughed about wedding memories. Then, around midnight, there was a knock. Not a casual knock. A slow, deliberate one. Kale froze. You ordered something? No. My voice trembled. He peeked through the peephole. No one. Another knock. This time from the adjoining door to the next room. Kale put a chair against it. Someone's screwing with us. He muttered. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Nice view from your room. My blood ran cold. I pulled the curtains shut so fast I nearly ripped them down. Kale dialed the front desk. This is room 1208. Who's in 1209? The clerk hesitated. Sir, that room isn't occupied. The knock came again, louder. Kale grabbed the hotel phone. Call security, now. The line went dead. And then, from the other side of the door, came his voice. Open up, lovebirds. We're not done yet. Kale. My voice was barely a whisper as the knocking grew louder, heavier. Each thud vibrating through the thin hotel walls like a heartbeat. Arya, get in the bathroom, lock the door. His voice was low but firm, the kind of tone that said, don't argue. I'm not leaving you now. Run. I ran, slamming the bathroom door behind me and twisting the lock until my hand hurt. My breath came in short bursts, my pulse hammering so loud it drowned out everything for a moment. Then I heard it. The scrape of metal, like someone dragging something sharp across the adjoining door. Kale's voice came through, muffled but shaking. What the hell do you want? The man's reply sent ice through my veins. You ruined my fun on the flight, Kale. Thought you could humiliate me in front of her. His voice dropped, almost a growl. Now I'm going to show her what a real man looks like. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop the scream rising in my throat. Kale shouted back, I'm calling the police. The stranger laughed, a deep, unhinged sound that didn't belong in a place like this. You think they'll get here in time. Something slammed hard. The adjoining door shuddered on its hinges. Then silence. No voice, no knocks, no scraping. I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, every muscle rigid. "Cale," I whispered, no answer. Panic clawed at my throat. "Cale." Still nothing. I twisted the lock and cracked the door open an inch. The bedroom was dim, lit only by the city glow filtering through the curtains. The chair was still braced against the adjoining door, and Cale was gone. The air felt heavy, thick, like the room itself was holding its breath. "Cale," I whispered again, stepping out. My bare feet sank into the carpet, soft and soundless. Then I saw it, his phone on the nightstand, and written across the mirror in something dark, thick strokes smeared across the glass, were 3 words, "Come find me." My stomach lurched. It looked like blood. I grabbed Cale's phone with trembling hands, dialing 911 so fast I almost dropped it. 911, what's your emergency? My husband. Someone took my husband. Room 1208 at the... My voice cracked as I gave the hotel name and floor. "Please send someone. He's gone. There's blood." The line clicked dead, no static, no call failed, just gone. And then Cale's phone buzzed in my hand. "Unknown number. Miss me already." I stumbled backward, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. The text came again. "Want to see him? Come alone. No cops. Parking garage level 3. 5 minutes. Another message followed before I could react. "If you're late, I'll send you a piece of him." My body moved before my brain could catch up. I yanked on my jacket, shoved my phone in my pocket, and bolted. The hallway was eerily empty, the patterned carpet stretching endlessly under harsh fluorescent lights. Every sound echoed, the hum of vending machines, the ding of an elevator far away. I pressed the elevator button, my hand slick with sweat. When the doors opened, I jumped inside and slammed the button for the garage. The elevator music was soft jazz, calm and cheerful, like some sick joke. When the doors opened into the parking garage, the chill hit me first. The air smelled of oil and damp concrete. My footsteps echoed as I made my way to level 3. Every instinct screamed to turn back, to run to the lobby to find help. But Cale, then I saw him. At least I thought I did. A shadow at the far end, tall and still. "Cale?" My voice cracked, echoing through the empty space. The figure didn't move. I stepped closer. That's when I saw the rope in his hands. I froze. It wasn't Cale. It was him, the man from the plane. His grin stretched unnaturally wide under the flickering garage light. "Hi, sweetheart," he said, his voice soft but slicing through the silence. "You made it. Where is he?" I demanded, my voice shaking. He tilted his head like a curious dog. "You really love him, huh? Where is he?" He chuckled, tossing the rope aside. "He was fun for a while, put up a fight. Then he raised his hand, showing me something small and metallic. Cale's wedding band. My knees almost gave out. No." He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, his boots clicking against the concrete. "Don't cry," he said mockingly. "You'll ruin that pretty face." I backed away, my heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. That's when I saw the door to the stairwell behind him. "If I could just," he lunged. I didn't think. I grabbed the first thing my hand touched, a broken piece of a car antenna lying on the floor, and swung with everything I had. The metal cracked against his arm. He cursed, grabbing for me, but I twisted free and ran. The stairwell door slammed behind me, the echo bouncing like gunfire down the concrete shaft. I ran, my lungs burned, my legs felt like lead. I could hear him behind me, heavy boots pounding, his breath ragged but eager, like this was a game and he was winning. 3 flights down, my foot slipped. I crashed against the railing, pain shooting up my arm, but I kept moving. Finally, the lobby door. I slammed into it, bursting into the warm light of the hotel entrance, screaming, "Help! Somebody help me!" 2 security guards turned. One grabbed his radio, the other sprinted toward me. "He's in the stairs, level 2. He's got my husband." I sobbed. They charged in. They found him, but not Cale. Just a smear of blood on the stair railing. A trail that led nowhere. No sign of the man. No sign of my husband. Police swarmed the building. Cameras showed us getting off the elevator together, then static, nothing after, like the footage had been wiped clean. I told them everything, the flight, the texts, the knocks, but when they checked the system logs, no record of those messages, no unknown calls, nothing. And here's the part that still makes me wake up screaming. The adjoining door, the one he was pounding on, maintenance swears it's been sealed for years. There was never a room 1209. I always thought honeymoons were supposed to be the happiest time of your life. That's what everyone told me. That's what all the magazines promised. What every cheesy movie portrayed. Newlyweds sipping cocktails on sandy beaches, holding hands as the sun melted into the ocean. My reality was different. When Ethan and I got married, it felt like everything finally fell into place. We dated for 4 years, survived long distance while he worked out of state, and finally tied the knot in a small ceremony in Texas. Nothing extravagant, just friends, family, and a rented barn strung with fairy lights. People said we were the perfect couple. I believed them. Ethan wasn't the most romantic man alive, but he was steady, dependable, the type who always paid bills on time and made lists for everything. After years of messy breakups and heartbreak, that reliability felt like a blessing. Our honeymoon was his idea. You deserve something special, he said one night, pulling brochures from a drawer. How about Denver? Then we drive through the mountains. Quiet, scenic. I'd always pictured something tropical, but I didn't argue. Ethan hated beaches, and honestly, the photos he showed me, the towering Rockies, crystal lakes, little cabins tucked away in pine forests, looked peaceful. I thought, what could possibly go wrong in the mountains? We landed in Denver late afternoon. The sun dipped low, turning the city gold. Ethan rented a silver SUV and loaded our luggage into the back while I scrolled through my phone, updating my Instagram with a photo of us at the airport, captioned, "First day of forever begins now. Honeymoon vibes." Ethan wasn't much for social media. He hated when I posted couple photos. I asked him once why, and he shrugged. I just like privacy. That night, we stayed in a boutique hotel downtown. Dinner was upscale Italian, the kind where the plates were too small and the wine list too long. He ordered for me like he always did. Steak for him, seafood for me. You excited for tomorrow? He asked over dessert. Definitely. Can't wait to see those mountains. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes, but I brushed it off. He was tired from the flight, I told myself. Morning came with crisp air and pale sunlight. We grabbed coffee, checked out, and hit the road. The mountains rose in the distance like jagged teeth. As we drove deeper into the wilderness, cell service faded. The road narrowed to a single lane, snaking between pines. Every so often, I'd spot a sign, "No gas next 50 mi." Feels like the middle of nowhere, I said, half joking. That's the point. He grinned, eyes fixed on the asphalt. Hours later, we stopped at a diner, a squat building with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign. Eats, the kind of place that smelled like burnt coffee and fried bacon. I excused myself to the bathroom while Ethan ordered. On my way back, I noticed a man staring from a corner booth, mid-40s, scruffy beard, wearing a faded baseball cap. His gaze slid over me like oil, slow, deliberate. When I sat down, Ethan asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I lied, forcing a smile. We finished lunch quickly. As we left, I glanced back and saw the man still watching. By late afternoon, we reached the cabin Ethan had booked, a rustic A-frame perched on a hill surrounded by endless forest. No neighbors, no noise except wind through trees. "It's beautiful," I said, stepping inside. The interior smelled of cedar and dust. There was a stone fireplace, a couch draped in plaid blankets, and a spiral staircase leading to the loft bedroom. Outside, a wooden deck overlooked a steep ravine. While I unpacked, Ethan checked his phone, frowning. No signal. He muttered, "Figures. That's okay. We're supposed to unplug, right?" I teased, but something in his expression lingered. An attention I couldn't name. We cooked pasta, opened a bottle of wine. For a while it felt normal. We laughed, played cards by the fire. Later, curled up in bed, I drifted off to the sound of wind scraping branches against the cabin walls. Then came the noise, a soft creak, like a floorboard shifting underweight. I sat up, heart thudding. Ethan. He stirred beside me. What is it? I heard something outside. He listened. Silence, except for the wind. Probably an animal, he said, pulling me close. Go back to sleep. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next morning, I spotted fresh bootprints in the dirt near the deck. Too big to be mine, too heavy for Ethan's sneakers. Were you outside last night? I asked. No, why? I showed him the prints. He studied them, then shrugged. Must have been the old groundskeeper. These places always have someone checking property lines. That didn't sit right with me. We hadn't seen a soul for miles. Later, while Ethan chopped wood out back, I wandered inside and flipped through the guest book on the coffee table. Last entry nearly 6 months ago. No mention of a groundskeeper. That's when I saw him, the same man from the diner. He was standing at the tree line, half hidden in shadows, just staring at the cabin. My stomach dropped. Ethan, I shouted. By the time he came running, the man was gone. That night, I begged Ethan to leave. I don't feel safe here. Please, can we just go back to Denver? He sighed, rubbing his temples. Holly, you're overreacting. We're in the mountains. People hike. They wander. But he was watching us from the woods. His jaw tightened. I said, drop it. Something in his tone made me go cold. Hours later, I woke to the sound of voices, muffled male. Coming from outside, I crept to the window and saw Ethan on the deck speaking to someone. The man from the diner. Before I could react, the door burst open. Hands grabbed me, rough, calloused. A cloth slammed over my mouth, choking me with chemical fumes. Darkness swallowed me whole. I was in the back of a truck. My wrists bound with duct tape, head pounding. Through the haze, I saw 2 figures in the front seats. Ethan driving, the stranger beside him. Panic clawed my throat. Ethan, my voice cracked. What's happening? He didn't look back. I'm sorry, Holly, he said quietly. You weren't supposed to wake up. Those words sliced deeper than any knife. Turns out my perfect husband had a secret life. Gambling debts, the kind you don't walk away from. He married me for my savings and my life insurance. They'll make it quick, he said, voice trembling like he hated himself for saying it. Cleaner this way. I screamed, begged, fought until my throat burned. It didn't matter. When they stopped on a dirt road deep in the wilderness, something primal took over. The moment the stranger yanked me from the truck, I kicked, twisted, sank my teeth into his arm. He cursed, loosening his grip just enough for me to run. Branches tore my skin, my lungs seared. Behind me, shouts split the night. A gunshot cracked the air. I didn't stop. Somehow, by miracle or sheer will, I made it to a highway and flagged down a trucker. It's been 8 months. I live under a new name in a new state. I never go out after dark. Every creak makes my heart lurch. People think I'm dead, including Ethan. The cops never caught him. And if he finds out I survived, I don't want to imagine what happens next. I never imagined that the happiest time of my life could turn into the most terrifying nightmare I've ever experienced. My name is Emily Carter, and I married the love of my life, Daniel, this past June. We'd been together for almost 4 years before we tied the knot. And if there was one thing I was certain of in life, it was that this man loved me more than anything. I felt the same about him. We didn't have an extravagant wedding. Honestly, neither of us cared much for the whole big wedding thing. Instead, we spent most of our savings planning the perfect honeymoon, 2 weeks at a private beach house on the coast of North Carolina. It sounded like heaven. When we arrived, everything felt surreal. The house was everything I dreamed of and more. Huge windows overlooking the ocean, a balcony with soft white curtains flowing in the breeze, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore as a constant backdrop. For the first 2 days, life was perfect. We lounged on the beach, laughed until our stomachs hurt, made love with the kind of passion only newlyweds can understand, and ate the freshest seafood I've ever had. I kept thinking to myself, if this is what marriage feels like, I never want this honeymoon to end. But on the third morning, things started to shift. Daniel woke up early that day, sitting on the edge of the bed with his phone pressed to his ear. His tone was calm but serious. "Everything okay?" I mumbled, still half asleep. He turned, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just something came up at work. I might have to hop on a call for a bit. Work on our honeymoon." I wasn't thrilled, but I also understood. Daniel was a corporate consultant, and his job could be demanding at times. "How long?" I asked, trying not to sound annoyed. "Maybe an hour or two," he said. "You should go grab brunch at that cafe down the beach. You liked it yesterday, right?" I nodded. The honeymoon had been amazing so far. One work call wasn't the end of the world, so I showered, threw on a sundress, and walked to the cafe. It was quiet, with the soft hum of waves and the occasional seagull cry in the background. I ordered an omelette and iced coffee, scrolling through photos of us on my phone, feeling that warm, in-love glow. That's when it happened. Daniel walked in. "Babe," I blinked, confused. "You're done already?" He grinned, that familiar, mischievous spark in his eyes. "Couldn't stay away from you." He slid into the booth next to me, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "Actually, I was thinking something more exciting than brunch." I laughed nervously. "Here." He smirked. "Come with me." Before I could respond, he took my hand and led me to the back of the cafe, straight into the single-occupancy restroom. My heart raced, half from the thrill, half from shock. This was so unlike us, but something about the spontaneity made me feel alive. I won't share every detail, but let's just say it was passionate, reckless, and unforgettable. When we stepped out, a waiter shot me a look that made my face burn. I slapped a $1.50 bill on the table and muttered, "Keep the change," before Daniel whisked me out the door. "I still have a little work to finish," he said, sounding casual. "Go enjoy the beach. I'll meet you later." Strange, why come all the way to surprise me, only to leave again? But I brushed it off. I was too giddy from what had just happened. I wandered along the shoreline, toes sinking into wet sand, letting the salty wind whip through my hair. After about an hour, I headed back to the beach house, and that's when my entire world tilted sideways. The house was quiet, except for the faint sound of waves and the click of a keyboard. Daniel was inside, hunched over his laptop on the dining table, deep in conversation on a Zoom call. He didn't even glance up when I walked in. "Hey, you're back," he said flatly, eyes glued to the screen. My heart froze. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Work," he replied casually, still typing. My stomach nodded. "You didn't just come to see me at the cafe?" He finally looked at me, brows furrowed. "What cafe?" I laughed nervously, very funny, but then the color drained from his face. "Emily, what are you talking about?" I stared at him. "Daniel, you were with me at the cafe, in the bathroom." His expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. Fear. He stood up so fast the chair toppled over. "Stay here," he said sharply, grabbing his phone and storming into the bedroom. I heard him yelling, voice trembling with rage, "How the hell did you find us? No, you listen to me." Then silence. He came out a minute later, face pale but calm, too calm. "Emily," he said softly, "why don't you run to the market, grab some vegetables for dinner?" Something was off, terribly off. When I returned 20 minutes later, Daniel was waiting with 2 glasses of wine. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Let's toast," he said, handing me a glass. "I'm not drinking until you tell me what's going on." I shot back, my voice shaking. His jaw clenched. "Emily, please, just trust me." Before I could respond, a muffled sound came from the hallway, like someone struggling. "What was that?" I whispered. "Nothing. Let's go out. Just you and me right now." The noise came again, louder this time. It was coming from the closet. I shoved past him and yanked the door open. What I saw made my blood run cold. A man tied up on the floor, a bag over his head, his body jerking weakly against the ropes. "Oh my God," I screamed. "Daniel, what the hell is this?" He lunged toward me, gripping my arms. "Emily, listen to me. We have to leave now." "No." I ripped free and tore the bag off the man's head. I froze. It was Daniel, the real Daniel. I turned slowly toward the man behind me, the one I had been with all morning, the one who kissed me, touched me, made love to me in that cafe bathroom. He looked exactly like Daniel, except for the wild, manic glint in his eyes. Daniel, the real Daniel, coughed violently, his lips cracked and bleeding. "Emily." His voice was hoarse. "My brother, my twin. I couldn't even process the words before the imposter grabbed me from behind, his breath hot against my ear. "You should have come with me," he snarled. My lungs burned as his arm tightened around my throat. I kicked and clawed, desperate for air, while Daniel thrashed helplessly against the ropes. "Let her go," Daniel roared. The man, his brother, dragged me toward the front door, his grip like iron. My vision blurred. Black spots danced in front of my eyes. Just as I thought I'd pass out, Daniel broke free. I don't know how, but he did. He slammed into his brother, sending us both crashing into the wall. I scrambled back, choking and gasping for breath as the two men grappled violently. They were evenly matched, same height, same strength, same face. It was like watching a nightmare version of my husband fight himself. The struggle spilled onto the balcony, furniture shattered, glass cracked under their feet. Then a sickening crack as a fist connected. A scream, and his brother toppled over the railing, disappearing into the rocks below. Daniel stood there, chest heaving, blood streaking his face. I stumbled to him, clinging to his shirt. What just happened?" He held me, trembling. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I didn't know they let him out." "Who? My twin," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "He's sick, violent. I thought he was locked up forever. We called the police." They searched the cliffs below. There was no body to this day. I sleep with the lights on. Every creak, every shadow, I wonder if he's out there waiting. And the worst part, sometimes when Daniel touches me in the dark, I feel that same wild, hungry energy from the man in the cafe bathroom. And I wonder, is it really him? I always believed my honeymoon would be the happiest time of my life. A fresh start, a new chapter, something to remember with a smile when I'm old and gray. But if someone had told me I'd spend that time running for my life, drenched in blood, praying to make it to morning, I would have laughed in their face. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. My name is Elena Parker, and 3 weeks ago, I married the man I thought I'd spend forever with, Mark. We'd been together 5 years, meeting in the most cliché way possible. I spilled coffee on him in a campus cafe, and instead of getting mad, he laughed, handed me a napkin, and asked for my number. Mark was everything I thought I wanted. Kind, funny, patient. He worked in tech, made good money, and always said he wanted to take care of me. After my dad died during my senior year, I clung to that sense of safety. Losing Dad was like losing gravity, and Mark grounded me. I wasn't naive. I knew relationships weren't perfect, but we'd made it through long nights, tight budgets, and even a period where I thought he might leave. When he proposed last Christmas in front of my mom and little sister, I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding wasn't huge, just close family and a few friends, but the honeymoon, that was supposed to be our fairy tale. Mark insisted we go all out. "You've never been to the ocean, Elena," he said, holding my hands one night while scrolling through photos on his laptop. "You deserve to wake up to waves and sunshine." He booked us a week at a private beach, front cabin in South Carolina, off season so we'd have privacy, and God, it was beautiful. The cabin sat on a quiet stretch of sand with pale wooden floors, big glass windows, and a wraparound deck facing the Atlantic. At night, the ocean glowed under the moon like molten silver. No tourists, no loud bars, just us. I thought I'd finally found peace. I was wrong. From the start, there were little things, stuff that didn't feel right. First, the drive to the cabin took us through a lot of empty back roads. We saw abandoned gas stations, motels with broken neon signs, and long stretches of nothing. I remember joking, "This looks like the beginning of a horror movie." Mark just grinned. Then when we arrived, the property manager, a wiry guy named Russell, seemed off. He handed over the keys without making eye contact, kept glancing toward the tree line. When I asked if the area was safe, he gave this weird laugh and said, "Safe enough, long as you lock up at night." I thought he was joking, but his face didn't match the tone. Later that evening, as Mark unpacked, I stepped onto the deck with a glass of wine and noticed footprints in the sand below barefoot, leading from the ocean straight to our cabin steps. The weird part, they weren't ours, we just arrived and no one else was around for miles, probably from Russell. Mark said when I pointed it out, or whoever cleaned the place last. I let it go, big mistake. The first 2 days were perfect. Lazy mornings in bed, long walks on the shore, seafood dinners Mark cooked himself. I posted photos on Instagram with captions like living the dream. But the third night, that's when everything shifted. We were lying in bed around midnight when I heard it. A soft thud, like someone dropped something heavy on the deck outside. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Mark paused, listening. "Probably the wind," he muttered. But the air was still, and I could feel something, like being watched. Goosebumps prickled my arms. I got up, peered through the glass door. Nothing, just black ocean and silver sand. We went back to sleep. The next morning, there were smudges on the glass, oily fingerprints, like someone had pressed their hands against the door trying to look inside. I told Mark. He frowned but brushed it off. "It's humidity. You're overthinking." But deep down, I knew someone had been there. 2 days later, everything exploded. It was our 5th night. Mark decided to drive into town 40 minutes away for more wine. "Back in an hour," he said, kissing me on the forehead. I stayed behind, curled up with a book, trying to ignore the unease that had been growing in my gut since we arrived. 30 minutes passed, then 40, then an hour. I called his phone. No answer. Another hour. Still nothing. By midnight, I was pacing the cabin, phone clutched in my hand, heart hammering. That's when I heard it. Footsteps on the deck. Slow, deliberate. I froze. "Mark." My voice cracked. No answer. The glass door loomed in front of me like a dark mirror. My reflection, and behind it, a shadow. Tall, still, watching. I couldn't breathe. My phone slipped from my hand, clattering on the floor. The shadow moved closer, pressing against the glass. Fingers, long, pale, spread across the door. I ran straight into the bedroom, slammed the door, locked it. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone outside. Please, I'm alone. My husband, glass shattered. I screamed. The next minutes were chaos. Footsteps pounding through the cabin, the operator yelling for me to stay on the line, me crawling under the bed like a child, then silence. I waited, trembling, listening. A door creaked, the kitchen. And then the smell hit me, sweet, metallic, thick. Blood. I knew that smell from when my dad hunted deer, but this was stronger, wrong. I crept out, barefoot, heart slamming against my ribs. The house was dark, except for moonlight spilling through broken glass. The smell led me to the kitchen, to a door I hadn't noticed before. The pantry freezer. Something inside dripped. Plink, plink, plink. My breath came in short gasps as I reached for the handle. My fingers curled around it, pulled, and there he was. Mark, hanging upside down from a meat hook, throat slit, eyes glassy. I don't remember screaming, but my throat burned. I stumbled back, slipping in blood pooling across the floor. That's when I saw him, the man from the deck, standing in the doorway, smiling. "Thought you'd like it fresh," he rasped. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in the trunk of a car, wrists bound, head pounding. I could hear waves crashing and a voice humming off. I don't know how I got out. I don't remember breaking free or running barefoot down that endless stretch of beach. I just know the police found me at dawn, hysterical and covered in blood near an abandoned pier. They never found him, never found the car or Mark's body. Some nights I wake up and swear I hear that voice humming outside my window, and I wonder if he's still watching, waiting. I never thought my honeymoon would turn into the darkest chapter of my life. If someone had told me that a week after marrying the love of my life, I would be running for survival barefoot and bleeding, I would have laughed in their face. But that's exactly what happened. Aaron and I met 3 years ago in the most ordinary way. You know, one of those random coffee shop encounters that sounds like something out of a cheesy romance novel. He was behind me in line. I was debating whether I wanted a caramel latte or just a plain black coffee. He told me, "Go for the caramel. Life's too short for boring choices." That was Aaron, always smiling, always trying to make life less boring. He wasn't just charming. He was genuine. The kind of guy who made you feel like the most important person in the world when he looked at you. We dated for 2.5 years, and every moment felt like some kind of dream. When he proposed last winter under the Christmas lights in the park, I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding wasn't extravagant, just a simple ceremony with close family and friends. But we decided to go big on the honeymoon. 2 weeks on a secluded island off the coast of North Carolina, a private beach, front villa, endless ocean views. It sounded like paradise. At least that's what we thought. We flew out on a Monday morning. The weather was perfect, the sky was clear, and everything felt right. Aaron kept making jokes about how he was going to gain 10 pounds from all the seafood he planned to eat. 2 weeks of no work, no phones, no stress. He said as we boarded the ferry to the island, "Just you, me, and the sound of waves." I smiled and rested my head on his shoulder, watching the water glisten in the sunlight. When we got to the villa, I was stunned. Photos online didn't do it justice. The house was huge. Whitewashed walls, wide glass doors opening straight onto the beach, a wraparound deck with a private hot tub. Inside, it was minimalistic but beautiful. Pale wooden floors, cozy furniture, and a massive king-size bed with a view of the ocean. Aaron grabbed me from behind and spun me around. "Mrs. Carter," he whispered, kissing my neck. We made it. Everything felt perfect. That first day was exactly what we'd hoped for. Walking on the sand, eating fresh fish at a small shack on the other side of the island, falling asleep to the sound of waves. If I could freeze any moment of my life, it would have been that day. I had no idea what was coming. The second night started off normal. We cooked dinner together, opened a bottle of wine, and watched a movie on Aaron's laptop. Around midnight, we were curled up in bed when I heard it. A knock on the sliding glass door that faced the ocean. At first, I thought I imagined it. The wind was strong that night, and the waves were crashing loudly. But then I heard it again, 3 sharp knocks. Aaron sat up, frowning. "Was that, yeah?" I whispered, my stomach tightening. We both looked toward the glass doors. The curtains were drawn, but the fabric shifted slightly as if someone had brushed against it. Aaron got up slowly and slid the curtain open. There was nothing there, just darkness and the faint reflection of the moon on the water. "Probably just the wind," he said, though his voice wasn't as steady as usual. Still, he locked the door and drew the curtains tightly shut. We laughed it off eventually, but something about the sound of those knocks stuck with me. The next day, Aaron went for an early morning swim while I made coffee. I stepped out onto the deck and froze. There was a man standing far down the beach near the edge of the tree line. He wasn't moving, just standing there watching. I called out to Aaron, but by the time he swam back and looked, the man was gone. "Probably another guest," Aaron said, though we both knew the island was supposed to be private. Only 4 villas, all widely spaced. We decided not to let it ruin the day. We rented bikes, explored the island, took pictures. But every so often, I felt it. That prickling sensation that someone was watching us. That night, Aaron left his phone on the deck while he went to take a shower. I was scrolling through mine when his screen lit up with a text. Unknown number, do you like the view? I stared at the message, my pulse quickening. Another text came through seconds later. Unknown number, she looks even better up close. My stomach dropped. When Aaron came back, I showed him the messages. He tried to laugh it off, said it was probably a wrong number, but his hands were shaking. He blocked the number, but we both knew this wasn't random. Someone was out there watching us. The next day was hell. Aaron went out to grab more groceries from a small shop on the far end of the island. He kissed me before he left, told me to lock the doors, and promised he'd be back in an hour. That was at 11:00 a.m. By 3:00 p.m., he still wasn't back. I called his phone over and over, no answer. I tried the shop, but the owner said Aaron never came in. I was pacing the living room when I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. This time it was on the front door. I grabbed a kitchen knife and approached slowly, my hands trembling. When I peeked through the side window, there was no one there, just a small white envelope on the porch. Inside was a single Polaroid. It was Aaron tied to a chair, his mouth ducked, taped, eyes wide with terror. What happened over the next 24 hours feels like a blur now. I called the island's emergency number. No answer. I tried 911, no signal. Whoever took Aaron knew what they were doing, and then the messages started again. Unknown number, run. I didn't even have time to think. The power went out. The entire villa went dark. When I looked out the window, I saw them. 3 men in dark clothing walking toward the house. I didn't wait. I grabbed the knife, ran out the back door, and sprinted toward the trees. My bare feet tore against sharp rocks and roots, but I didn't care. They chased me. I could hear their footsteps pounding behind me, their voices shouting. I don't know how long I ran before I saw the small dock on the far side of the island. A single fishing boat was tied there. I didn't think. I just jumped in, untied the rope, and pushed off with everything I had. By the time the boat drifted far enough away, they were standing on the dock watching me. One of them smiled and raised a hand in a slow wave. I made it back to the mainland the next morning. The Coast Guard found me half conscious and dehydrated. I told them everything. The villa, the men, the Polaroid, Aaron. They searched the island. They didn't find Aaron. They didn't find the men. They didn't even find the villa. The spot I described, it was just empty shoreline. No house, no deck, no sign that anyone had ever lived there. They said I must have been confused, dehydrated, traumatized. But I know what I saw. I know what happened. It's been 2 years. Aaron is still missing. His family held a memorial for him last summer. Everyone tells me to move on, but I can't. Because sometimes, late at night, I still get messages from that same number. The last one came yesterday. Unknown number. You still look even better up close. I never imagined that my wedding day would feel so perfect. Growing up, I wasn't the type of girl who spent hours daydreaming about veils and bouquets. I was practical, maybe even too practical. But then I met Ethan Carter and everything changed. It was a rainy Thursday when I walked into that coffee shop downtown after a brutal day at work. My laptop had crashed. My boss had yelled at me for something that wasn't my fault, and I just wanted caffeine to keep myself from falling apart. Ethan was in line ahead of me, wearing a dark gray coat and this tired, almost boyish smile. When the barista told him they were out of oat milk, he turned to me and said, "You look like someone who makes good decisions. Should I just risk regular milk and ruin my stomach or go black and hate my life?" I laughed. That one sentence broke my tension like a knife through butter. I told him to go black. He ordered, paid, and before I knew it, we were sitting together, talking like we'd known each other for years. He had this easy charm, calm, attentive, with those pale blue eyes that made it hard to look away. I told him about my love for old movies and road trips. He told me he was in finance, that he liked hiking and hated cilantro. That was 2 years ago. 6 months of dating turned into a year, and then a proposal on a quiet evening at the pier where we had our first kiss. No big crowd, no fireworks, just us. a soft ocean breeze, and Ethan on one knee holding a ring that sparkled against the night sky. I said yes without hesitation. Everyone loved Ethan. My parents adored him. My friends said I hit the jackpot. He was generous, thoughtful, never raised his voice. He planned the entire wedding with me. And when the big day came, it felt like the universe aligned just for us. When I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, Ethan's face crumpled into tears. Not polite tears. Real, raw emotion. He whispered, "I love you," when he kissed me, and I believed him with every fiber of my being. If someone had told me that less than 48 hours later, I'd be fighting for my life, I would have laughed in their face. "I've got the honeymoon handled," Ethan said a week before the wedding, leaning casually against the kitchen counter as I scrolled through resorts on my phone. "Just pack light and trust me." I loved surprises, so I didn't question it. He booked everything: flights, car rental, hotel. All I had to do was show up. The morning after our wedding, still dizzy from champagne and laughter, Ethan drove us to the airport. When I asked where we were going, he just smiled and kissed my forehead. "Patience, Mrs. Carter." I liked how that sounded, Mrs. Carter. It made my heart warm. When we landed in Denver, I squealed, "Colorado, seriously? You always said you wanted to see the Rockies," he said, slipping an arm around my waist as we walked to baggage claim. We rented a sleek black SUV and started driving west. Snow-capped mountains loomed in the distance like something out of a painting. I snapped pictures humming along to the playlist Ethan had queued up. For the first 2 hours, it felt like a dream. He held my hand at red lights, joked about buying a cabin in the woods, but then things started to feel off. He stopped answering when I asked where exactly we were staying. When I teased him, "What is it? A treehouse or something?" he just said, "You'll see," his voice flat in a way that didn't match the warmth from before. By the time we left the highway, the sun was dipping low. The GPS signal had cut out 30 minutes earlier, and the road we were on was a lonely two-lane strip through endless pine trees. "Ethan, are you sure this is the right way?" I asked, glancing at the darkening forest. "Positive," he said without looking at me. When we finally pulled into a long gravel driveway, I expected a rustic lodge or maybe a cozy cabin. Instead, what stood at the end of the road made my stomach tighten. It was a mansion, huge, isolated, a sprawling modern structure with towering glass windows and a wraparound deck. It looked more like the set of a billionaire thriller than a honeymoon spot. "Wow," I breathed, forcing a smile. "This is fancy." Ethan didn't reply. He killed the engine, got out, and started unloading the bags without a word. "Ethan," I laughed nervously, "are we allowed to be here?" "It's ours," he said simply. I blinked. "What do you mean, it's ours?" He didn't answer. My skin prickled. Inside, the place was immaculate. High ceilings, marble floors, walls of glass looking out over acres of dark forest. A man in a black suit appeared from a side hallway. "A butler, if you could call him that. Welcome, Mrs. Carter," he said smoothly, like this was all completely normal. My stomach turned cold. Who are you?" I stammered. "Staff," Ethan said flatly. "This is Thomas. He'll take care of you, take care of me," I repeated, my voice cracking. "Ethan, what the hell is going on? We never talked about moving here." The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. Pain exploded across my cheek. I stumbled back, clutching my face. "Ethan, what the? You're my wife?" he hissed, his voice low and deadly calm. "You do what I say. From now on, you belong to me." The words didn't register at first. This was Ethan, the man who cried at our wedding, the man who promised me forever. But as he grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and dragged me toward a hallway, reality crashed down like ice water. I married a monster. The room he locked me in looked like a guest bedroom, but the heavy steel bolt on the door told me exactly what it was. A cell. I screamed until my throat burned, pounded on the door until my fists throbbed. No one came. Hours passed. My mind spun in frantic circles. My phone was in the car. No one knew where I was. My parents thought I was in Aspen sipping champagne, not trapped in a stranger's mansion with the man I thought I loved. When the door finally opened, Ethan stepped in. His expression was calm, almost bored, like none of this was insane. He sat on the edge of the bed. "You'll learn, Claire." His voice was soft, chillingly soft. "This is where you live now, with me, forever." When I whispered, "Please, Ethan, don't do this," he smiled, and then he proved exactly how much control he had. I don't know how long I cried after he left. Long enough for my body to shake with exhaustion. When Thomas brought a tray of food later, I forced a smile. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice barely audible. As soon as he left, I hid the knife under the mattress. If Ethan thought I was weak, he was dead wrong. When Ethan returned hours later, he wasn't alone. Another man followed him in, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes like ice. Ethan laughed, a sound so alien it turned my blood cold. "Thought we'd have some fun, sweetheart." When they started kissing, my stomach lurched, my jaw locked in horror as clothes hit the floor. When Ethan grabbed me, I didn't think, I reacted. My knee shot up hard. He crumpled with a strangled grunt. I yanked the knife from under the mattress and pressed it to his face. "Move, and I swear to God I'll kill you." His companion froze, hands up. I ran. My bare feet slapped against marble. I tore through the hallway, heart hammering, until I spotted the rental car keys on a console table. Behind me, footsteps thundered. I didn't look back. The night air burned my lungs as I sprinted to the SUV, fumbling the keys with shaking hands. The engine roared to life just as Thomas appeared in the doorway, shouting. Gravel sprayed as I slammed the gas and flew down the driveway, trees whipping past like shadows trying to grab me. I didn't stop. Not when the gates loomed, not when the tires screamed against asphalt. I drove until my arms ached and my vision blurred, until I saw the glow of a 24-hour gas station and collapsed against the steering wheel, sobbing. The cops didn't find the mansion, not the first time, not the second. It was like it vanished into the trees. Ethan's bank accounts were wiped clean, his phone disconnected. His friends claimed they hadn't heard from him. Sometimes late at night, I swear I see a black SUV parked across the street from my apartment. I don't answer the door anymore, and I don't sleep without a knife under my pillow. Because Ethan promised me forever, and I believe him.